What is up guys, welcome back to another GeekaWhat video, and today I've got a $1,200 gaming PC build for you for 2019. I can't quite believe 2018 is over already, my mind is blown. If you watched my last PC build video, you'll know I set a like goal of 500 in a week, and it smashed it out the park. Therefore, as a man of my word, I'll be giving that system away, and you can find details of how to enter at the Instagram link in the description below. If this video hits 1,000 likes in a week, we're stretching it here, then I'll also sort something special out for this video. With that being said, let's dive into some performance figures and see just how well this build does at 1080 and 1440p. The real sweet spot of this build for me is the 1080p high and ultra settings and 1440p medium settings range. If you're looking for 1440p gaming, the esports titles such as CSGO, Fortnite, League of Legends could see in excess of 100 FPS at that resolution, whereas the latest AAA titles such as Call of Duty's Black Ops 4 and Forza Horizon 3 are going to be more suited to their 1080p ultra settings preset. Let's now dive into the hardware I selected that makes this build just so capable, and I'll put Amazon links in the description below as well as a web page in the card section here where you can compare pricing on all components. For the CPU though, I selected the AMD Ryzen 5 2600X. This chip sits at the top of the current Ryzen 5 lineup, giving you a fast single-core boost clock speed of 4.25 GHz, which is going to be favoured in games such as CSGO, which are worse optimised for really utilising all your CPU's horsepower, as well as the 6 cores and 12 threads covering the multi-threaded side nicely for Black Ops 4 or Forza Horizon 4, which are going to take much better advantage of this CPU. The chip also leaves the door open for a bit of productivity, bit of video editing, bit of live streaming, recording your gameplay to share with your friends. It covers all those bases nicely indeed. For the CPU cooler in this build, I selected the Cooler Master MA410M. And now admittedly this is a little bit of an extravagance for a build like this. You could tone down and use the included stock cooler, which I might add is pretty fantastic, though you aren't going to get much overclocking headroom, aesthetics aren't covered quite so nicely, and it is going to be audibly louder. This system is astonishingly quiet, and I think that's really important when building your next system. With 220mm fans and a blacked out heatsink design with addressable RGB integration and an included controller, it ticks all the boxes nicely for me. And whilst it isn't the cheapest CPU cooler on the market, it does come in a piece less expensive than most all-in-one liquid cooler alternatives, so it does provide a bit of a balance, if you will. Moving on to the motherboard in this build, and this is another area where I think I've got the balance just right. This is the MSI B450 Gaming Pro Carbon AC. One of the biggest complaints people have when building their own systems and their first PC is, oh, it doesn't have Wi-Fi and I've got to buy this crappy dongle with pants signal, and this board fixes all those problems. When it comes to the Ryzen lineup, there's a few chipsets of motherboards you can get, but the B450 chipset for me is the best value. Not only does it give you CPU and RAM overclocking support, meaning you can crank that free performance without any issues whatsoever, it also gives you a wider number of PCIe lanes, USB 3.1 Gen 2 of the 10 gigabits per second variety, which adds an element of future-proofing to your build. As I mentioned, this board also includes Wi-Fi as well as an M.2 slot for those fast SSDs, 4 RAM DIMM slots for good upgrade paths, and a really nice blacked out aesthetic with plentiful amounts of RGB integration. Moving on to look at the memory I selected in this build, and I went for ADATA's new Spectrix D41, with an addressable RGB strip on the top of each DIMM that can be controlled with Asus's Aura Sync or the MSI Mystic Light software suites. It's a really nice designed kit. You get it in a range of speeds, though this 2666 MHz kit does the job nicely. You can get it with either a grey or a red heat spreader, though for me the grey is a bit of a no-brainer. And all in all, I don't think you can go too far wrong. ADATA are now like the second largest memory manufacturer in the world, which is completely mind-blowing, and this kit is affordably priced and does the job really nicely indeed. For the storage selection in this build, this is an area where everyone's going to have some slightly varying personal preferences. That's not to say I don't have my recommendations though. A 2TB Seagate Barracuda gives you 2000 gigs of space for all your movies, music, games, Steam, Origin and Uplay libraries. The 7200 RPM speed is as fast as your mainstream consumer hard drives tend to get, but let's be honest, it's not overly quick, and that's why I choose to pair it with an additional M.2 SSD. For the M.2 drive, I selected the ADATA SX8200 Pro. It's one of their new M.2 drives. It's blazingly fast with speeds up to 3.5 gigabytes per second, which is just crazy. If you wanted to go balls to the walls with price to performance ratios, a hard drive will be fine, but it will mean your system is considerably slower at booting up, and this 480GB drive does have enough room to store your most frequently used games on to really make that experience a little bit more seamless. For the graphics card in this build, I selected the MSI GTX 1060 6GB, though the AMD RX 590 is also a really good bet. It all comes down to me on whether you're after AMD's FreeSync or NVIDIA's G-Sync technology support, which is the anti-tearing technology supported by a lot of monitors nowadays. It would have been nice to try and squeeze an RTX 2070 card into a system of this budget, but it just wasn't possible. You're talking $200, $250 more for a decent 2070, and sadly this budget just doesn't quite facilitate for that. Buying a graphics card in 2019 should hopefully get easier as prices start to stabilise, and I wouldn't write off a refresh of the 1060 coming very soon from NVIDIA, though support for ray tracing is currently unknown on that prospective card. I will link all the options in the description below though, so you can compare for yourself and let me know in the comments what you'd pick for the graphics card in this system. For the case in this build for the chassis, I selected a new entry to the market from Bitfinex. This is their Enzo mesh in white, though a black version is also available. About a year ago now, I did a $1,200 build in their Enzo case, which you can find in the card section here. Though this mesh alternative, I think adds to the aesthetic with that RGB leaking through and also gives much better airflow. It's easily removable for cleaning as well, which helps to keep the system nice and quiet. The case includes a plethora of really nice features such as an included addressable RGB hub, a built-in power supply shield, some decent cable management options as well, and plentiful drive mounting support with room for a 360mm radiator at the front of the chassis. Radiator. For the final part in this build for the power supply, I selected a bit of a surprising unit from Bitfinex. This was their 650 watt Formula Gold. As the name suggests, it boasts an 80+ gold certification, which is better than pretty much any other power supply in this price bracket. You'll also notice the nice individually sleeved black cables, which kind of blend in more with your build and thankfully aren't the sort of ketchup and mustard affair often found on cheaper units. Unfortunately, the power supply isn't modular or even semi-modular, meaning you do have this kind of rat's nest of cables that you have to deal with regardless. Though the ample cable management space allows you to shove these to the side, pop the side panel on and set and forget about them. It would have been nice to have that semi-modular interface, but equally for the price, the 80+ gold certification, which guarantees some top-notch efficiencies, is in my opinion much more valuable. And that just about wraps it up for this build. Remember, giveaway details for the $1,000 system that I talked about in the last video can be found at the Instagram link in the description below. If you aren't already subscribed, hit that big button, make sure you ding dong that notification bell so you never miss another upload from me. As always though, have a fantastic 2019, I wish you all the best, and I'll see you in the next GeekaWhat video.